And this is a mystery box.
Or the mystery box.
What's in the box?
Mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat.
Hey everyone, back in action. If you need the story, my folks needed more space. My sister Martha shipped my dad's comic books out to me. I'm going through them on YouTube for your viewing pleasure, getting all sorts of story elements wrong and way overestimating the price of these. But we're having a great time doing it. We've gotten through one long box, one short box. Today we are cracking a new long box, which is already done, and I've got to tell you I am a little bit worried. I've seen the comic books in here. There aren't a lot in bags, so we might be finding less cool old stuff, more recent stuff, in which case we'll have 4 relatively boring episodes, but the only way to find out is to get into it. So I'm going to grab the first stack. Right off the bat, I'm a little right. This is Generation X. Now, I've talked a lot about comic books that I've loved as a kid, like Conan, that kind of sword and sorcery stuff, but this was the first comic book that I really collected. This was, I mean, maybe we can talk about it more later, but this was a mutant comic book, an X-Men comic book, where basically they wanted students again. So they sent, these were younger mutants that were back in the school with all kinds of drama. Some later Uncanny X-Men stuff. Wolverine. Super 90s Spider-Man. More Super 90s Spider-Man. Okay, some old Conan stuff. I've kept saying it, I keep finding this and I can't wait to see how complete these runs look. Here we go! X-Men #1. No real value here, but I love having these. X-Men #1, we mentioned before, the #1 selling comic book of all time. Jim Lee on art. Awesome. This is cool. So this, in a previous episode, I talked about, we found Wolverine #1, and it was probably volume, well, it was the first ongoing series that Wolverine got, but this is his first standalone title. Chris Claremont wrote these, and Frank Miller drew them. This is 4 of 4, so there were only 4 of these. We're 25% of the way there. I don't think 4 has any considerable monetary value, but if we can find one, that would be great. Daredevil. Some more Uncanny X-Men. Here's Madeline Pryor. Caliban of the Morlocks. He was a fun character. He could sense mutant powers. Storm, more Uncanny X-Men. Here's the Brood. This was one of my favorite X-Men bad guys. These were an alien race of bug monsters that would take people over. These guys were great. I think we've seen this comic book before, so that's 2 of them. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, with some Kingpin stuff, and Cloak and Dagger. I've talked about how I like C-list heroes before. Vision and the Scarlet Witch. Some old Avengers. The Black Knight. He's coming up in a movie. I don't know which one. New Mutants. Oh, these were fun. I like these. This was Balder the Brave is a character from Thor, obviously, Norse mythology and all that. This is another limited series, 3 and 4. I hope we'll find the other ones. More Uncanny X-Men. There's Web of Spider-Man Annual. And another Web of Spider-Man. Marvel Saga. This was them just reprinting old stories. So this is an early X-Men story that they reprinted at a later date. Here's another one of those team-up books, Spider-Man and the Gargoyle. Oh, here's another guilty admission. This was another comic book that I collected. This was not good. Slingers. That's embarrassing. Later on, Uncanny X-Men, some early Punisher. This comic book is in bad shape. Or maybe it's not, it's in okay shape and it's just dusty. The spine, you can see a lot of dings on the spine. That's too bad. More Uncanny X-Men. Here's some Generation X, Chamber and Husk. These two had a will they, won't they romance that was nauseating. Punisher 2099. This was a run of comic books where it was all the heroes in the far future. So the far off age of 2099. What did superheroes look like then? Oh, look at that. I want to talk about Hercules a little bit because he's fun. I mentioned how much I liked him before, but that's Wolverine #1 in the limited series. And it's in pretty good shape. There's a little bend at the bottom right corner and some scuffing on that upper left corner, but I mean, for me, this is fantastic. This is something I'm gonna put a board in. It doesn't have a board on it. I'm hopeful now. We've got 1 and 4. I'm hopeful we can find 2 and 3. Putting together a complete run of that would be great. That's a series that I really like. Is relevant for comic books. I don't have all of them, and so it'd be really fun to pull those all out of here. Now we've got X Factor, more 90s Spider-Man, kind of emulating like early Spider-Man with the old logo in the upper left and everything. Some more early X Factor. This is kind of interesting because it's around here. I don't know the exact issue, but it's some early X Factor comic books where Apocalypse makes his first appearance. It'd be pretty great to pull one of those out. Uncanny X-Men, regular X-Men. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. Okay, X-Men #1. Now you might be saying to yourself, this X-Men #1 looks different than the other X-Men #1. That's because they printed, I believe, 4 different copies. It could have been more than that. But the idea was to get people to buy more comic books by having more covers. And so you wanted to collect all of the covers, and so you would buy more comic books. And that's how they sold, you know, over 9 million of these or whatever. Maybe we'll find all 4 covers. More Spider-Mans. This is fun. Someone asked me on Facebook, although they should have left a comment on the video, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, why are there these different titles? Why is there Web of Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man? There was also the Amazing Spider-Man, Marvel team-up with Spider-Man, Marvel Tales with old Spider-Man stories. The fact of the matter is, Spider-Man is just, like, one of the most popular heroes of all time. So people that really loved Spider-Man would buy multiple books with Spider-Man in it. So if you can print 4 or 5 different Spider-Man comic books every month and people will still buy them, you do. Lots of old Spider-Man. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with these, so I don't know if any of these are, you know, super key issues. Some old Star Trek comics from DC. I don't think any of these have any even collectible value. But they're fun. Ooh, this is the kind of stuff that frustrates you because you see a cover like that, which is the cover of the first appearance of Spider-Man, and you're like, oh my god, but then it's just a reprint of it. So thanks for that, Marvel. some Spider-Man team-ups. Oh, this is fun. Spider-Man teams up with Professor X. I'll read that. That'll be interesting. Here's another reprint of an iconic cover, but I'm immune to your tricks, Marvel. You can't get me again. This was an old Spider-Man comic book where he tries to join the Fantastic Four. And they're like, there's already 4 of us, buddy. What do you want? Ooh, Daredevil 199. I don't know if that's a Frank Miller issue or not. I think this is after him. Some more Uncanny X-Men. More New Mutants. Will Eisner's John Law. Will Eisner, the comic book award is named after him. He's pretty great. I think we can do one more stack. We'll do one more stack, and then we'll go over to the research and discussion portion. We found some good stuff. I'm stoked. I was worried that this would be a really boring issue. So far it hasn't been. Let's see, some more Millennium. Some more old Mighty Avengers. Spider-Man. Lots of Spider-Mans. Hey! We talked about this before. This is Omega Men number 3. This is the first appearance of Lobo. Now I promise, he looks way cooler than this in future comic books. He looks like a dork in this one. That's cool. It's in really good shape, too. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know why I put it over there. Too excited. I think we've seen others of these. Maybe this is some kind of scavenger hunt that Martha is sending us on. We have to find the Jack of Hearts spread out through the entire collection. Here's Kitty Pryde, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was one of my favorite characters growing up because she was a younger X-Man. She was a kid. She had kid problems. I was a kid. Thor, Web of Spider-Man, 48. I think that's before McFarlane came in. There's some really popular Spider-Man covers that McFarlane drew. More Spider-Mans. Spider-Man and Thor teaming up. Hey, fun. Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde teaming up. That's another one I'll read. I like it when Spider-Man teams up with mutants. Fun stuff. Huh. So for some reason I remember this cover. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a key issue or not. I just remember that cover. We'll find out, I guess. Spider-Man, the Falcon. More Spider-Man. Ooh, Daredevil 195. Wolverine 3. Okay. This is good stuff. So we're 3 out of 4 on Wolverine now. And if you ask me, we've got the 2 best covers. 1 and 3 are the 2 best covers. I can't remember what the cover of 2 was, but I remember 1 and 3 being really good. I think that's the second copy of that we got. Spider-Man the Black Widow. Spectacular Spider-Man 144. Spider-Woman. Some more old The Warlord. Omega Man 9, but who cares, because we got Omega Man 3. Son of Saturn. Fury of Firestorm. I think we're putting together a really nice run of Fury of Firestorm. I don't think they didn't look like they were particularly valuable, but we've got a nice long run of it. Teen Titans 19. That's a pretty early issue. It's not 2. We want 2. But I like the characters. And then ending with giant-sized annual Marvel Age. I don't know what that is. We'll find out what that is. We'll find out what the prices on the other stuff are. when we come back. Stay tuned. Okay, so we went from this being to a box I was really nervous about, and I didn't know if there was going to be anything good in here, to it being possibly our best box since episode 2. Back in episode 2, we pulled all that Silver Age stuff out, including the first appearance of Juggernaut. You guys, I do not think we're going to be able to top that. I hope we do, but I don't see it happening. This box, though, boy, already this episode, there was so much interesting stuff in there. And then there was stuff that I didn't expect to be interesting or of value that it turned out it was. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to try to organize this sort of by character a little bit, I think, or by title, by theme maybe. And so we'll start with the I believe, standalone DC title, Omega Men 3. This is the first appearance of Lobo. Lobo is a fan favorite character. I'm going to throw up some overlays like here. Lobo is really cool. He's super edgy and dark. This is his first appearance, so it's a key issue. I was considering looking at this, possibly having this professionally graded. I don't think I'm going to. It doesn't look like the value is there. And there's a ding here on the spine that I think would prevent this from getting a super high score. So, really awesome to have, even though I'm not a huge Lobo fan. Just really cool to have that in the collection. So happy to see that. The other standalone title that we're going to cover is this giant-sized annual Marvel Age number 3. So I remember Marvel Age, it was like a magazine format, kind of. And in this giant-sized annual, you've got this weird issue that's presented as if it's a television variety talk show. But there are a ton of contributors here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Yeah, that's not bad. Some of these names we've seen before. We've talked about before a little bit. You've got Chris Claremont. You've got Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Ann Nocenti. And then there are some names on here as well that we haven't talked about, but, you know, I'm happy to see. Mark Silvestri, John and Sal Buscema. I mean, just, you know, kind of icons in the industry. So I'm actually going to take this out and read it, but it's also of, you know, not totally negligible value. Next up, I think, let's do the X-Men stuff. Yeah. So X-Men stuff, we found 2 issues of X-Men number 1. We're missing at least 2 more. I thought these were interesting to pull out just because in 9.8 grade, these can draw a moderate value. They don't command it. It's not like people are clamoring to pay $50 or $60 or $100 for these in 9.8. But you can find them online, especially signed by like Jim Lee, where they're much more valuable than I expected. And still, even in these conditions, you know, better than the book price, better than $150, which is what my dad probably paid for them. So, God, I mean, profit, maybe, I guess. I don't know. But we've got lots more X-Men to talk about. The next up we'll do is Uncanny X-Men 163, 165, and 164. Now, this is part of a 6-part series that is the X-Men Against the Brood. And all of the titles in that series, it goes from 162 to 167, all of them are moderately valuable. Just because this is a storyline that people like to read and like to have, and like me, they like the Brood as an enemy, and so they are interested in picking these up. 164 is of special note because this character here is Carol Danvers, who you probably know as Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the time, she was Miss Marvel, and in this comic book, she becomes Binary, and this is her first appearance as the character Binary. I don't remember Binary. I loved the X-Men, and I don't remember this character at all, so I have no idea how long she stayed that character. But these are all pretty important. I have all of these in my collection already. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. Just because I can't see a reason that I would need multiple runs of these titles. So, I guess we'll find out later. Hopefully we'll pick up the other 3. Maybe we can throw them on eBay as a set or something. Speaking of sets, Wolverine 1, Wolverine 3, and Wolverine 4. Why a man with metal claws in his hands needs a pointy stick crossbow, I don't know. I mentioned in a previous video when I found Wolverine 1, the other Wolverine 1, that I didn't remember him being cool until he had done the Japan stuff. This is the Japan stuff. So these comic books are written by Chris Claremont. They're illustrated by Frank Miller. This is Wolverine going to Japan and his adventures there. This is what the movie, was it Logan? I don't know. The movie where he goes to Japan, this is what it's largely based on. Of particular value, just because this is Wolverine's first solo appearance. It's not an ongoing series, it's a limited series. Number 1 has the most value, and they taper off afterwards. Again, not super concerned about value on these. They're in good condition, they're not in great condition. If we find 2, I'm going to read them, bag them, and board them. Possibly throw 1 in a frame and display it somewhere. I love that cover. I think that cover is awesome. I would love to have that hanging up on the wall in my comic book room. So, that about covers it for X-Men stuff. And so now we're going to do Spider-Man stuff. So, if you remember, when we were going through the comic books, we ran into these guys, and these guys scared me because, I don't want to say scared, I got excited. These are covers from really iconic Spider-Man issues. Silver Age Spider-Man, his first appearance ever in Amazing Fantasy, and then the early issue where he tries to join the Fantastic Four, and they're like, it's 4, not 5, get out. I included these because they are in amazing condition, and in amazing condition, they're valued relatively highly. So they don't have boards on them now. I'm going to get boards behind these. I'm going to set them aside. These might get graded. I don't know. It would be weird, I think, to do that because they're not necessarily key. They're Marvel Tales comic books, which I've never really been super interested in collecting in the past. But they're just in such good shape that I'm going to see what that would look like and maybe get some advice on whether or not I should really do that. Web of Spider-Man 19. Only talking about it because it's the first appearance of Humbug and Solo. I mean, those are not super popular characters, but Humbug, I think, was around in the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, or a character like him. I don't know. But I thought I would feature it. That's it. That's it. And then lastly, we're going to do a run of the Spectacular Spider-Man. These are not spectacularly expensive, but we talked a little bit before about, certain runs in the X-Men and storylines and that kind of thing. This is a run for Spider-Man that as soon as I saw these, I realized when I was doing my research what these were. There was a character in Spectacular Spider-Man, a police detective who helped him out, was basically like his internal contact with the police. Her name was Jean DeWolf. And in Spectacular Spider-Man 107, she is found murdered. They introduced the Sin Eater, who's a character, I believe the Sin Eater is the one that killed her. I don't remember. Daredevil shows up. They get in a fight. I mean, like, this series is just, it's fantastic. And it's another series that, because the storyline is there, because it's so well written, these are also, you know, in higher demand and valued a little more highly. It's also a very short run of this 65-cent price. There you go, 65 cents. 65 cents only runs from issue 101 to like 111 or 112 or something like that. So it's a very short run of that price before it goes up to 75 cents. So that's not super interesting, but I thought it was interesting enough to comment on it. Anyway, that's it for this box. Holy cow, there was so much in there. So much, like, there was other stuff that I didn't put down here. You know, stuff that, I mean, there were even some comic books that were a little bit more expensive than these, but I just didn't think they had interesting enough stories behind them. I cannot wait to get into the rest of this box. I'm probably going to shoot the next videos right now and just get into them. But I honestly don't think people are going to want to watch, you know, half hour, 45-minute long versions of these. So I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to start the next episode. You guys will have to wait a couple days for it. But, I mean, how awesome is this? This is so much fun. Yeah, we'll see you again soon. Bye.